Ancient Egypt is a land of endless fascination, a place where mystery and history collide. But beneath the towering pyramids and iconic hieroglyphs lies a side of this civilization that's rarely discussed. Strange rituals, shocking customs, and unbelievable practices that continues to baffle historians even today. In this countdown of the top 10 most mysterious things Egyptians ever did, we'll uncover secrets that defy logic and explain how these ancient civilizations thrive in such extraordinary ways. Each mystery reveals a glimpse of this unique world, and the final one will leave you wondering how much more we've yet to discover. Let's step back in time and uncover the unknown. Number 10. Turning sandals into symbols of revenge.
Footwear may seem like a mundane part of life,
But for King Tutankhamun, his sandals carried a message of domination. These weren't ordinary shoes. They had the faces of his enemies painted on the soles. Every step he took symbolized crushing his foes underfoot. This was a visual and psychological message to anyone daring to challenge him. It wasn't just about looking tough, it was about control. Ancient Egyptians believed deeply in symbolism, and this small yet powerful act was a daily reminder of Tutankhamun's authority. The message was clear: his enemies weren't just defeated, they were beneath him, literally and figuratively. This attention to symbolism wasn't unique to Tut. Egyptians often embedded meaning into everyday items, from clothing to weapon, making even the simplest object extensions of their beliefs and power. But while symbolic sandals are fascinating, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Ancient Egypt's devotion to the divine took even more bizarre forms, especially when it comes to their treatment of animals. Number 9. Mummifying crocodiles as sacred offerings. When you think of mummies, human pharaohs likely come to mind. But in ancient Egypt, crocodiles also joined the ranks of wrapped and preserved. These animals were seen as sacred representation of Sobek, the god of water, fertility, and the Nile River. Honoring them was believed to ensure that Nile's continued prosperity, which was a lifeline for Egyptian civilization. Crocodile mummies weren't an occasional oddity, they were a regular practice. In one incredible discovery, archaeologists unearthed tombs containing 10 perfectly preserved crocodile mummies. Some were covered with intricate wrappings, proving the level of care Egyptians gave to their sacred animals. These reptiles weren't just offerings, they were believed to guard the afterlife. Some mummified crocodiles were buried with their owners, acting as protector in the journey beyond. Imagine the dedication it took to mummify a creature as fearsome as a Nile crocodile. But crocodiles weren't the only animals treated with extraordinary respect. If you thought that was wild, wait until you hear how far Egyptians went for their feline companions. Number 8. Shaving eyebrows for mourning cats. Cats weren't just pets in ancient Egypt, they were divine beings, preserved a symbol of protection and good fortune. Cats held a special place in Egyptian household, but when a cat died, the mourning process was anything but ordinary. Families would shave off their eyebrows as a sign of grief. This wasn't just a quirky ritual, it was a deeply symbolic act showing the world that the beloved companion has passed away. Egyptians wouldn't stop mourning until their eyebrows grew back, which could take weeks. Cats were so sacred that harming one even accidentally was punishable by death. They were often mummified and buried with their owners, ensuring they stay together in the afterlife. Archaeologists have found elaborate tombs filled with cat mummies, covered with gold and precious amulets. It's incredible how much reverence Egyptians had for these animals, but cats weren't the only creatures they trained and respected. Wait until you hear about their most unusual law enforcers. Number 7. Training baboons as police officers. Believe it or not, ancient Egyptians used baboons as their version of police officers. These intelligent primates were trained to chase down thieves, guard valuable treasures, and even assist in official ceremonies. Baboons weren't just animals, they were partners in maintaining law and order. Egyptian art often depicts baboons holding criminals by their legs or biting them to prevent escape. It's a fascinating glimpse into how creative Egyptians were in solving everyday problems. These creatures weren't just tools, they were loved and sometimes even treated as sacred animals. Beyond their policing duties, baboons were also trained for practical tasks like picking fruit, brewing beer, and even dancing during religious ceremonies. Some were so cherished that their images were tattooed on the bodies of Egyptians, which was a mark of both respect and superstition. It's remarkable how Egyptians could integrate animals into almost every aspect of life. But as strange as baboon police sound, their advancements in medicine were even more astonishing. Number 6. Using moldy bread as medicine. The concept of antibiotic didn't exist in Egypt, but that didn't stop them from innovating. Egyptians discovered that moldy bread could be used to treat wounds. Long before the discovery of penicillin, they realized that mold had antibacterial properties. When someone had a cut or infection, bread left to mold was applied to the wound. While it might sound gross, it often worked, preventing infections from spreading. This practice was surprisingly effective, acting as an early precursor to modern medicine. Egyptian medicinal texts like the Ebers Papyrus also detail other remedies, showing how advanced their understanding of health was for the time. They used honey, herbs, and even metal to treat ailments, combining natural elements with a trial-and-error experimentation. It's fascinating how resourceful they were, turning everyday items into life-saving solutions. But their innovations weren't limited to science. They also found ways to break the societal norms. One pharaoh in particular challenged tradition with an unusual accessory. Number 5. Female pharaoh wore a fake beard. In a world dominated by male rulers, Queen Hatshepsut stood out. To assert her authority as a female pharaoh, she wore a fake beard, which was a symbol traditionally associated with male power. This wasn't just a costume, it was a calculated move to show she could rule as effectively as any man. Hatshepsut's reign during the 18th dynasty was marked by prosperity, trade expansion, and stunning architectural advancements, including her famous mortuary temple at Deir Bari. But her decisions to wear a beard wasn't just about appearances, it was also about legitimacy. In statues and carvings, Hatshepsut is often depicted wearing the same ceremonial beard as her male predecessors, blending tradition with innovation. Her boldness paid off. She became one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs. This blend of creativity and determination was a hallmark of Egyptian culture. But their most peculiar innovations often involved the afterlife, as we can see their unique burial practices. Number 4. Storing organs in canopic jars. Mummification was a meticulous process, and even organs had its place. The Egyptians stored vital organs in canopic jars, beautifully crafted vessels designed to protect them in the afterlife. Each jar represented one of the 4 sons of Horus, tasked with guarding the lungs, stomach, intestines, or liver. But here's the twist: the heart, considered the seat of the soul, was left inside the body. Egyptians believed it was needed for the weighing of the heart ceremony, where it was judged against the feather of Ma'at to determine one's fate in the afterlife. These jars weren't just practical, they were works of art, often covered with intricate carvings and shapes like the heads of gods. They reflected the Egyptians' deep belief in the afterlife and the lengths they'd go to ensure a safe passage. From preserving organs to preserving the soul, Egyptians spared no efforts to the quest of eternity. But what they believed were the Nile River might be the most poetic mystery of all. Number 3. Believing Isis' tears flooded the Nile. The annual flooding of the Nile was essential for Egyptian survival, bringing fertile soil and water to sustain crops. But instead of attributing to the natural forces, Egyptians believed it was caused by the tears of Isis, the goddess mourning her slain husband Osiris. Each year, during the flood season, Egyptians celebrated the Night of Tears, a festival honoring Isis' grief and the renewal it brought. They floated down the river in brightly decorated boats, offering gifts and singing praises to the gods. This belief shows how deeply intertwined their mythology was to the natural world. To them, the flood wasn't just water, it was a divine act of love and renewal, ensuring life continued. It's fascinating to think how they turned even a natural event into a story of hope and connection. But speaking of life, let's not forget the Egyptians' peculiar obsession with their daily essentials. Number 2. Using bread and beer as currency. Bread and beer weren't just food staples in ancient Egypt, they were currency. Workers, including those who built the pyramids, were often paid in rations of bread and beer. These items were so essential that they became a form of economical exchange. In addition to their practical use, bread and beer had a spiritual significance too. They were frequently offered to gods in temples, symbolizing sustenance and gratitude. When the Nile failed to flood, leading to food shortages, Egyptians believed it was a sign of divine displeasure. This practice highlights how deeply their lives were connected to their beliefs. Bread and beer weren't just sustenance, they were symbols of life itself. But nothing represents life more than how they honor their dead, as we see in the final mystery. Number 1. Wrapping mummies in kilometers of cloth. The process of mummification was an art, and no detail was overlooked. Wrapping the body in linen was one of the most critical steps, often requiring over 1.5 kilometers of cloth. This wasn't just for preservation, it was a sacred act to prepare the deceased for the afterlife. The linen was often inscribed with prayers and spells from the Book of the Dead, guiding the souls through its journey. Wealthy Egyptians spared no expense, adorning their mummies with amulets and jewels hidden within the wrappings. This level of dedication shows us how seriously Egyptians took their beliefs about the afterlife. To them, mummification wasn't just a ritual, it was a guarantee of eternal life. From crime-fighting baboons to intricate burial practices, every mystery we've explored shows the brilliance and complexity of this ancient civilization. Ancient Egypt continues to captivate us with its strange and awe-inspiring mysteries. Each practice, no matter how unusual, tells a story of a civilization that balanced innovation, spirituality, and creativity in every aspect of life. Which of these mysteries surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and if you're as fascinated by history's secret as we are, don't forget to subscribe. There is so much more to uncover and we can't wait to share it with you.